Hello users, and welcome to another episodic installation of Above It All. And you may not know this, but this motherfucker right here that you're seeing on your screen was an orchestrator in personally assaulting me and my mother. They swatted me in the year 2018. I made videos about that. You can search up SWAT on my channel if you would like to find those details. But I'm going to recount a lot of things here. I would like to read the article and give you the details that I find important, and then I will tell you my personal story, how this affected me, and what these people's plans and goals are. Now, it is not surprising to me whatsoever that the person who swatted me was a neo-Nazi. I found out in January when a reporter contacted me saying that my name was listed on legal documents and they wanted to see my side of the story. Now, only one reporter contacted me. They were a Vice reporter, if I remember correctly. There were multiple outlets that covered this, but none of them covered the angle from survivors. I also talked to the journalist who wrote this article, and she said that she may publish my story in the future when there is a follow-up. I don't know. If that does exist, I will follow you up as well. So, the fall of a ring of white supremacists harassing journalists, activists, and politicians began with a college student trying to get out of class. John William Kirby Kelly, 19, acknowledged in federal court in Alexandria on Tuesday that he was part of a group that called in false threats to police so law enforcement would react with force, a form of harassment called swatting. Many of their targets were minorities or journalists and academics who had reported on the far right. One of the members was John Cameron Denton, identified by authorities as a leader in the far-right group Atomwaffen division, who pled guilty last week. Now, again, it is no surprise to me that I am on Atomwaffen kill lists. That is not surprising whatsoever. I am a trans woman who is very outspoken online. This is in no way a shock to me. So, both Kelly and Denton could face up to 5 years in prison for conspiracy to make interstate threats. If you ask me, they should be in prison for life, but that's just me. Both have agreed to pay restitution to the police departments involved. Both admitted that they had used racial slurs, and Kelly acknowledged that he was aware of his co-conspirators' involvement in neo-Nazism. Members of Atomwaffen have been linked by law enforcement to 5 slayings. The group holds hate camps where they practice for combat, according to court records and their own propaganda. The group has affiliates abroad, including in Germany, where members have threatened left-wing and non-white politicians. So I'm just going to have this up here because this is the pic of his face. And this, come on, man. Let's be real. Right? Come on. But I want to tell you my story. And this is the thing that people do not understand about swatting. There is a misconception that when you get swatted, that it is just an annoyance. Ah, man, I wasted an hour or two. Ah, darn. That was so annoying. This swatting incident that occurred to me by this fucker and Atomwaffen permanently altered the trajectory of my life, and I would like to explain how and why. This is not something I have talked about much because it is very difficult to recount, but as time goes by, it's easier for me to talk about this. One of the things that I think is my responsibility as a public person, as an activist, is to use my personal trauma, to use the things that I've gone through in life that are hard for me to recount, and to use those stories to inform people what is actually happening in this world, okay? So, I was a speedrunner and a streamer back in the day. I was one of the top streamers for a website called Stream Me. and that website ceased to exist. I maybe will go into that in more detail later. And I was, I believe, the only trans person on this website. There is a fucking fly in my room, and they have been here all day, and they're pissing me off. But, a frequent occurrence for trans people online is to be doxxed and to be harassed. I get people probably in the comments to this video. If you're watching this video 12 hours later, probably in the comments to this very video, I get people threatening to kill me on a daily basis. This has been happening basically ever since I came out as a trans woman. And especially way more ever since I got involved in political activism. I get death threats every day, multiple times a day. I would say at this point it's like maybe 5 or 6 people threaten to kill me, or wish that I would die, or wish that cops would kill me on a daily basis. Okay? And these are only the ones that are directly interacting with me. I have no doubt that there are groups like Atomwaffen or other neo-Nazi groups that post my content and talk about killing me. That is not surprising at all, okay? So, I was streaming in 2018, I think it was in July of 2018, and during my stream, there's a live chat, and people posted my name, my legal name, my dead name. As a trans woman, I have changed my name, but they posted that name as well as my home address. At the time, I no longer live there. So if any neo-Nazis are trying to swat me again, I'm sorry, you're going to have to find my new address. But they posted my name and address, and that's something, again, I'm used to. Especially at that point, that was when things started to get a little crazy. That's when a lot of the hate mail, a lot of death threats started around summer, spring of 2018 for me. And so I was just like, okay, whatever, ban them. But about 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes later, I do not remember the exact interval of time, I hear noises. Now, I have my headset on, right? And I hear a megaphone. Megaphone so loud that it was able to permeate my, body. Volume at such a loud, because volume, sound waves, right? It's such a decibel value, you can feel the sound all across your body. So I take my headset off, and I hear people shouting my dead name in the middle of the street through a megaphone. Now, at this point, in 2018, was already aware enough of what swatting was. I had joked about it. I had known people that were swatted before. I knew kind of what the idea was. Hello? I cannot do that right now. I'm in the middle of a video. Okay, I'll be down in 10:15. Alright. Anyway, where was I? I'm not gonna edit that out. I don't care if you could hear her. Anyway, damn, that fucked my train of thought. Okay, so I hear a megaphone. I walk downstairs, and my mom is asleep at this period. So I open the door, and I see that there are about a dozen officers with assault rifles pointed at me. They tell me that I need to get out, I need to put my hands in the air, and I need to get out and walk to the street. So I do that. And I do this, I'm barefoot, and I'm walking on, pavement and asphalt. It's all crumbly, and it hurts, right? And they threaten several times that if I do not follow their orders, they will shoot me. So, at the same time, I'm trying to tell them, this is a swatting, this is a prank, nothing is happening, please, whatever. So, these people, they are parked in front of my neighbor's home. And so they could not hear me because they were very far away. So 2, maybe 3 officers told me to get down onto the ground. And so I complied. And then, as I was laying face down, into the asphalt on the ground, they told me to walk backwards. I told them, I can't do that, I'm on the ground. Which you would think, being a police officer, being in charge of people's safety, that you would know that people cannot walk while they are on the ground. But that's neither here. Actually, that's both here and there. But then 2 or 3 officers charged me and did that thing where they whoosh, like they fucking break your shoulders and try to fucking destroy your body as they put your hands behind cuffs. And they picked me up and dragged me to the car. Now, around this period, my mother had woken up. She was in her pajamas, and she walked up to the open door that I did not close the door behind me, because why would I do that, right? She walks up to the open door. She is an elderly, disabled woman who is also very visibly disabled. She was also overweight, okay? The cops told her, "Get onto the ground or we will shoot you." My mother had no context, no idea as to what was happening. They said, "Get on the ground or we will shoot you." They repeated that several times. My mom had grown up in an environment where she had been assaulted and harassed by cops since being a child. She also had PTSD. So cops, especially a whole squad of them with guns, pointed at her, threatening to kill her. That triggered her PTSD. She started crying, saying, "What's going on? I can't. I'm trying to tell," as these people are dragging me to the people threatening to kill my mother, I'm telling them, "She is disabled. This is a swatting. There's nothing going on. Please listen to me." Instead, what they decide to do is run up to my mother, right? Knock her onto the ground. Now, she could not get onto the ground because she was disabled. Her legs did not work properly. There is no physical way that she could get onto the ground without falling. So the cops ran up to her saying, "We will shoot you if you do not do what we say." That is a threat. They threatened to kill my mother, but I'll get onto that later. So, they ran up to my mom. They knocked her onto the ground. She was crying. She was confused. I was trying to talk to them. They brought me away from where I could see her while I kept hearing her scream, "Get off me. Get off me. Please stop it. Why are you doing this?" Right? Again, she is in full-blown panic mode. She is being triggered by the cops in a post-traumatic stress disorder state. She is crying. She is being manhandled and assaulted. Now, like I said, she is overweight and disabled. As a result, her bones are very weak, and she does not have a large range of motion. So what they did was they decided to dislocate both of her shoulders, trying to arrest her for no reason. There was no reason for this. There was no reason for the excessive force whatsoever. For those curious, I was in Prince George's County, Maryland at this time. You can probably Google my old address if you look hard enough. In fact, if you just Google, I'm sure it's not even required to look hard enough. All you have to do is Google it. So you can see where I lived at the time. So I was trying to explain to the SWAT officers that this was a swatting. There's nothing going on. This is a prank. There's nothing happening. So I talked to a captain. That captain tells me, right, "All right, gotta talk to us. What's going on?" I tell the captain, "This is a swatting." They don't know what that term is. Now, this is 2018, not 2008, not 1918. This is 2018. And the head officer in charge of a SWAT team, had never heard of the term swatting. So I tried to explain to them what that was. Again, you would think the people in charge of our safety would understand basic terminology, especially in 2018, when swatting has been on the rise, at least in my memory. The first I heard of swatting was like in 2013, 2014, and that's just me personally. So I don't know how long it's been like a very active practice, but I'm pretty sure it's been a thing for a long time. So they don't know what that term means. So I explained to them, I'm a live streamer. I was playing a video game online, and somebody who does not like me found my address and called the police department, telling them, there's something going on. And they said, "Well, if that's the case, how would they know what you looked like?" And I said, "I had a webcam on my live stream." And the SWAT officer said, "What is a webcam live stream?" They are that decrepit and dumb. The leader of a terrorist organization that is beating the shit out of my mom did not know what a webcam was. They did not know what a live stream was. They did not know what swatting was. Think about that. So, it took a very long process for them to finally realize there's nothing going on. Now, as a result, I want this to be directly underscored. You need to know this. 3 or 4 months later, I went to a concert. And, I was a little tipsy at the concert. I took a cab home. When I came home, my mother was on the ground having a stroke in the kitchen. Now, I don't know how long she was there. I have not had a conversation with her since then because she lost her ability to speak. She could not speak anymore. She did not remember who I was afterward. And I want this to be understated. Now, my mom and I didn't have health insurance, okay? My mom had a history of cancer. I remember she had cancer when I was 4 or 5 years old. I remember seeing her in the hospital. She survived cancer. She had a tumor in her brain that was activated by stress. I know in those 3 to 4 months, ever since the swatting and before her stroke, she had night terrors. She could not sleep. Every time she heard a car door outside, she'd scream. She would cry because she thought people were coming to get her. I kept telling her everything's going to be okay, but she did not understand that. She had PTSD, okay? And as a result, she had a tumor. The doctor said when we brought her in that it had been there probably for 2 or 3 years. Now, if we had health insurance, that wouldn't have been a problem. If we lived in a country that had a universal healthcare system, that would not be a problem. But we don't. We live in a capitalist hellhole. And as a result of this swatting, it induced, the tumor grew larger and larger from the stress that she eventually had a stroke. She cannot speak English. She can barely think. She can't move. Okay? And I'm not going to go into all the details here, but my family, on her side, disowned me. They did not like that I was transgender, and when my mom went to the hospital, they used that as an excuse to kick me out of the house. I, in no way, shape, or form, know what happened to my mother after that. I was told that my mother could not, speak, she could not move, and that she was probably going to pass away or be in a coma. I was never given conclusivity on that. I have lived the last 2 years of my life with the assumption that my mom is dead, because even if she still is alive, she cannot speak. She is basically in a vegetative state. So, I, as a result of this motherfucker and the broken healthcare system in this country, lost one of my only 2 parents. The person that I grew up with and was raised by, a single mother, was raised by, the only person I had really ever had contact with for the first 21 to 22 years of my life, was killed by a combination of capitalism, police brutality, and neo-Nazis. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to my story. If you have questions, let me know. It's been several years since this happened. It's been 2 almost. In October, it will be 2 years since I found my mom on the kitchen floor. And I want you to understand that swatting is not just an annoyance. If you swat someone who is poor and lives, in a dysfunctional family environment, people that don't have health insurance, it's not just a one and done. It can cause irreparable damage to people. Now, I was never able to file any lawsuits, right? I do not have the money for that. I do not have the resources for that. If somebody capable of doing that sees this video, or if someone who knows someone capable of doing that sees this video, please let me know. You can email me, Andrea@speed.dog. But for the most part, I've gotten over this. Earlier this year, I had no idea who the person was, and a journalist contacted me in January, and now it's making the rounds in the media again. So this is the only way that I've known about this. I have not had any contact with the police. They refused to let me talk to them after the fact. They just pretended that it didn't happen. If you're wondering why I'm an anarchist, this is the reason. Well, I was an anarchist before this, but either way, if you're wondering why I'm so radical, if you're wondering why I believe the things I believe, my lived experience is the reason. Because I was a trans woman, a neo-Nazi network targeted me and swatted me, and because my mom didn't have health insurance, the result of that swatting ended up killing her. This is something that people need to know. And I've tried to talk to reporters, and I talked to the reporter who wrote this, and they said they'll publish it at some point. I don't know when that is. I don't know. They work for the Washington Post. So to be honest with you, I don't have much faith in that. But I thought I would tell that story in video form, because this is a major personal event in my life. And again, my family disowned me. I live with my brother and his family now in North Carolina. If you're wondering who was on the phone earlier, that was a family member whom I currently live with on my brother's side of the family, which is on my father's side. I have a half-brother connected by my father. And my mother's side of the family disowned me for a combination of being trans and just they didn't like me. I don't know. My uncle, who I'm not going to talk too much about, is a federal cop. So I'm guessing he blamed me over the swatting. I don't know. He's a piece of shit, and I hope he dies. Maybe I should... fuck it. I hope he dies. He's a disgusting, abusive scumbag who stole my mother from me and refused to let me see her because... I don't know. I have no idea. And they kicked me out. I was about to be homeless, and I called my brother for help, and he helped me. And here I am now. I'm in North Carolina. My life is so much better. Everything is on the up. But every time I see this in the news cycle, I have to relive the trauma. And I decided, you know what? I'm just going to try to tell the complete story, because I didn't tell. I hid the fact that my mother was in the hospital. I hid the fact that she had a stroke for months. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want anyone to know. I wanted to deny it. I didn't want it to be real. And so I don't think I've ever told this story in this form. So anyway, thank you for watching. Have a good one. I'll see you soon.